Hi, all. Welcome to the panel discussion, The Middle Grade Sampler. My name is Louie Lauer, Library Media Specialist for Fargo Public Schools, and your moderator for this panel. In this session, we'll be talking to five middle grade authors about their upcoming titles and get a sneak peek into their process as creators. It promises to be a really great conversation. We've got a great panel for you today. So let's go ahead and welcome our panel. In The Travelers, Edgar nominee Greg Howard brings readers on a journey that defies the rules of time. Ben Turner finds himself at the doorstep, literally at the doorstep of the next chapter in his life, his first without his mother, and one that has the potential to change his life forever. Please welcome Greg Howard. Welcome, Greg. Glad you're
Thank
here.
you. Thank you. It's good to be here.
When Asher Adams, a middle school boy with neurodivergence, witnesses his ex-best friend Jilly steal feminine products from a grocery store, he's immediately concerned. But when kids at school start teasing Jilly, about her period, Asher turns from worried former best friend to advocate. Told with equal humor and authenticity, Joanne Levy brings readers a character that they will immediately cheer for. Please welcome author of How to Walk a Dog, Joanne Levy. Welcome, Joanne. Glad you're here. In the second installment of the Barking Puppy series, Dog Circus Block Party, Sophie and her best friend Juno work with their neighbors to put on a dog circus themed block party that will hopefully help their school from being torn down. Not torn down, closed, sorry. But a new neighbor appears to be working against any efforts to save their school. Will the block party be enough to halt a decision that seems already determined? Please welcome to our panel, Lori Lobenstine. Welcome, Lori. Glad you're here. Sue Ruffle immerses readers in a world of mushroom-capped creatures in her debut graphic novel, The Stone of Shiro. When the magical Stone of Shiro is stolen, it is up to young Kale to find the relic and return it to his community before it falls into the wrong hands. Please welcome to our panel, debut graphic novelist Sue Ruffle. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you so much.
And finally, drawing from the world of her acclaimed series, Dear Martin, Nick Stone brings us Dasia Forever, the story of 13-year-old Dasia Riley, who is in her 19th day of a hospital stay, written in a combination of prose and verse. Stone explores the power of community, family, and hope, even in the direst of circumstances. Please welcome Nick Stone. Welcome, Nick. We're glad you're here. This is going to be a great conversation. All huge children's lit enthusiast. I really love all things children's lit, but really middle grade. Middle grade's always been my jam. It's kind of really where I started my love of children's lit, and I really had a wonderful time this last week digging in to your offerings. I really had a wonderful time digging in. Such unique stories. So for our first question, panelists, give us your best elevator pitch on what your book is about, and explain what you enjoy most about writing for a middle grade audience. Let's start with Greg, and then I'll just bring you in one by one.
Well, my book, The Travelers, is about Ben Turner. He's a 12-year-old gay boy whose mother dies of a drug overdose, and he's sent to live with his only living relative, his grandmother in South Carolina, who he's never met, in this big, creepy old house where there are tons of antique clocks that are all wrong, and some of them are running backwards. He hears voices in the walls, so he and a couple of new friends start exploring Clifton House to find out what's going on, and what they find is a time portal, and he gets to meet his mother when she was his age, and he thinks and hopes that he can save her and change the course of her life so maybe she doesn't die. And I think the reason I love writing for this audience is because when you're that age, and we all remember, your imagination is just on overload, and you have a hunger for story, a hunger for adventure, and you're open for any kind of mystery. And I just love that kind of big imagination time that kids have, because I can go back to my 12-year-old self like that and lock into that. So that's why I love writing for middle grade.
I love it, and you're bringing him on quite the time journey there. I love the inclusion of the clocks, and I love the adventure as well as the heart that goes with it. Joanne, how about you? Tell us a little bit about your book and why you love middle grade.
Sure. Thanks so much for having me, first of all. The quick pitch for How to Walk a Dog is Asher Abrams is an awesome kid who just happens to have ADHD. And in an effort to support his ex-best friend, who was teased when her period arrived unexpectedly and very publicly, Asher actually films a PSA to end the stigma around menstruation for his school passion project. But then his informative and I think very hilarious film goes viral. So that's it in a nutshell. What I love most about writing for a middle grade audience, besides finding readers out in the wild, which I love because kids this age are like my favorite, is the chance to give myself something of a do-over. I love being able to sort of put myself into situations that I had as a tween, and instead of being quite as cringy and awkward as I was, I can put characters in and have them have success at the end, even though the road can be bumpy. So it's sort of that do-over that I really, really enjoy.
Awesome. And I really look forward to talking to you about how you crafted voice in this novel. I think it's one of those really lovely, authentic voices that's coming through and through this novel. Lori, how about you? Tell us about your book and what you love about middle grade.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Um, so Sophie, who's 11, Sophie and her teenage pal Juno are trying to bring their neighborhood together with an awesome dog circus block party. But their new neighbor and his 10 no pooping signs are not helping. And then Sophie catches wind that he's actually leading the charge to close down her nearby school. What to do? Well, it's Sophie. So, can she organize her classmates to find a top secret school committee meeting and plan the ultimate clown protest parade? We'll see. It's based on real life characters, humans and dogs, and it celebrates young people's power to take on complex issues like gentrification, like racism, like school closings, with their creativity, with their humor, and with their community.
Thank
Oh,
you. And
what
I
I like
felt,
about middle grade.
yeah, go
So
ahead.
my first two books were for adults and teens, and they were nonfiction. So I stumbled into the school visit, which is so fun. So, like, a book tour is cool. My first book tour happened at sneaker stores. That was super fun. But, like, sitting in front of a classroom of fourth graders that have read your book and they're all fired up with their own crazy ideas and also their own stories about their dogs, so fun.
Really nothing like it, right? There's really nothing like it. Um, Sue, tell us about your book and what you've enjoyed bringing this graphic novel to middle grade.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. The Stone of Shiro is a middle grade fantasy graphic novel about a small mushling boy named Kale who longs to find a place where he belongs. When the powerful Stone of Shiro, which is the source of life for his world, is stolen, Kale and his beloved pet Truffles are swept into a dangerous quest to recover it. Along the way, they encounter incredible creatures, hidden dangers, humor, mystery, and a growing responsibility far bigger than they ever imagined. I think the tagline really encompasses what the Stone of Shiro is all about. He doesn't want to be a hero, but without him, his world won't survive. What I really love about the story for middle grade is that beneath the fantasy adventure, it's about belonging, friendship, courage, identity, and hope, especially the idea that even someone small, frightened, or overlooked can make an enormous difference. I wanted to create a story where young readers could see that vulnerability and kindness can be really enormous strengths. I also think that graphic novels are such a powerful gateway into reading because they combine um, visual and textual storytelling in a really deeply engaging way, particularly for reluctant readers and visual learners.
Couldn't agree more. And what a powerful format to work in. I have to tell you, Sue, I love all of the mushroom fungus references. I find that just super entertaining. And those of you that are listening, I mean, this one's gonna feel a little bit like Amulet. So if you're looking for that Amulet-like adventure for your library, that I think this would really fit the bill. Let's continue our conversation. We're going to go into a little bit more of looking at kind of not the process. I want to look at origin. Sorry, the origin kind of stories of your books. I want to start with you, Greg. You were known for working in mystery fiction and also for writing for and about LGBTQ youth. Both of those elements really. Oh, I forgot Nick. Oh my goodness. How could I ever? Nick, back to you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Nick, tell us about Deja Forever.
Oh, this is karma, honey, because I'm totally like passing notes to Greg behind everyone's back right now. So Deja Forever follows 13-year-old Deja Riley. So we meet Deja in Dear Justice. She's the younger sister of Quan Banks, who is the protagonist for Dear Justice. And there's a scene in Dear Justice where his mom comes, he's incarcerated. His mom shows up and tells him that his sister has cancer. So her story takes place over the course of 8 hours one night when she gets an unexpected visitor to her room on her 19th night of chemotherapy. And it is a night that completely changes her outlook on life, how she feels about herself, how she feels about her fight. And yeah, it is absolutely a tear jerker, and I'm not sorry at all. So my love of middle grade is rooted in having little middle schoolers right now. Middle schoolers are feral, and it makes them really fun to write about. Like I was at a school today, I think I spoke to like 150 sixth and seventh graders, and it went from us talking about books and road trips and literacy to talking about Drake and manicures. So I couldn't love that audience more. They are just so much fun, and they can handle so much more than we give them credit for.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that today, about how we can bring them really lots of different content, and lots of different topics. And yes, yours is it's a crier, Nick, but it's also it's a lot of hope in it too, and it's really a wonderful story. So now let's talk about origin stories. Um, Greg, tell us your inspiration in the Travelers for Ben. Ben's a 12-year-old boy, recently lost his mother. And also I'm interested in kind of where you got that idea for that clock-fueled time travel that really pushes that story forward.
Well, Ben is he's a part of me, like all my main characters are. His mother died. He was a mama's boy, and his mother died when he was very young. My mother also died when I was very young. I was also a mother's boy, and I didn't really know much about her life. And because she died so young, from the South, and it was the 70s, nobody in the family talks about things. Nobody tells you stories about the people who died. They can't handle their grief, sometimes in the South. So I never knew a lot about my mom when she was young. And also my grandmother, who would never talk about her life when she was young, nor my grandfather. They had these family secrets that we didn't discover until I was, an adult. And that's why they didn't want to talk about these things. So the inspiration for Ben was, I wish I would have known what my mom was like when she was young. I wish I would have known my grandmother's story and what made her the way she was when I knew her, when she was older. So with those two questions still lingering in my life, I thought, wow, what if I could go back in time and meet my mother when she was young and figure out, what was her life like? And that was really kind of what started the whole thing. And the town where the book is set is kind of based on my hometown of Georgetown, South Carolina. So a lot of low country elements and visuals there. But yeah, it was all about wishing I'd known more about. I wish the adults in my life had talked to me about my mom and about her life, but they never did. And my grandmother, when I had the opportunity to talk to her and to ask her her story, I didn't do it. And that's one of the biggest regrets in my life. So this book kind of came from wishing I could kind of go back in time, wink, wink,
Wink,
and
wink.
learn more about them.
You got it. There's been a lot of, quite a few, there's a lot of in-time travel books for kids. Anything particular with the grandfather clocks that you thought was, that
Uh,
you wanted to bring in here?
No, no, other than I used to collect antique clocks. I don't do it
Okay.
anymore, but I used to. And I was always, because we didn't have that kind of thing when I was growing up, we didn't have antiques and stuff. So I wanted this house to be full of antiques, which I
Okay.
came to appreciate as an adult,
Yeah.
especially clocks, which I could just look at old clocks all day long. So I wanted this house to be filled with clocks and for that to kind of play into the whole time travel element.
Well, it works really, really well here, Greg.
Thank you.
Joanne, in How to Walk a Dog, I think one of the standout elements is that first person narration of Asher, the protagonist. The sixth grade boy was ADHD. What was the process you took in creating that really authentic voice?
Thanks for asking. So, like all of my characters, I start with a dose of cringy and a dose of awkward, just from my own childhood. But for Asher specifically, I have to go back to the origin of this story, and it started in the pandemic when times were very weird, and my husband was diagnosed with ADHD in his 50s. And all of a sudden, so much made sense. And it was absolutely heartbreaking to me that his entire life he was misunderstood. And there was so much about him that all of a sudden clicked into place. He's creative, he's resourceful, and yes, sometimes distracted and inattentive. But people just misunderstood him for so many years, and that includes me. And that was part of the heartbreak. So it was at that moment that I realized I wanted to write a character like him who is so smart and caring and resourceful, but whose neurodivergence sometimes gets in the way of his relationships and creates challenges. And, success isn't always a linear thing. So, I had an amazing role model for Asher's character, and I leaned pretty heavily on my husband for that. I can't say Asher is like every kid with ADHD or neurodivergence, but he's very much like my husband, who ended up being one of my first readers to make sure I got things right. And thankfully, I did. And I actually, just to take that extra step to make sure I did right by Asher's character, I actually had a child life specialist who specializes in ADHD read the book, and she gave me her resounding stamp of approval. So all of that informed Asher's character to make him what he is.
That's wonderful. And I have to say too, the work you did to really bring Asher positive adults that really seemed to understand and want to understand, I think also was an incredible message, and really allowed us to see the positives and the gifts that a character like Asher brings.
Yeah.
Lori, I'm really excited to talk about the barking puppy because I know that there is a great backstory here. This is the second installment. The Dog Circus Block Party is the second installment, the Barking Puppy series, which originated, if I understand correctly, kind of a handwritten newspaper that you created with your goddaughter, Sophie. So, can you tell us about the Barking Puppy, how it started, and how much of this series is pulled from that experience?
Absolutely. There's so many good personal experiences already. The original Barking Puppy newspaper was started, Sophie was 10, and I was going up for a week of vacation week to spend time with her while her mom was working. And we decided we were going to come up with a By Dogs, For Dogs newspaper. So we came up with our dog alter egos, and we got busy and we hit deadline, and we had our first newspaper out that first week. And we realized we love working together. And fast forward to today, Sophie is still my main collaborator. She just graduated from college, woohoo, from Emerson as a comedic studies major.
Love it.
So she's giving me, advice on the funny parts. She's giving me elements from her own experience. We're collaborating on not just the newspapers, but the first book, the book tour, the class visits. She was our narrator on the audiobook for book 1. So that was really exciting too. For book 2, I will say, yes, we did do a miniature dog circus, not as big as the one in the book, but maybe more importantly, I live in Boston. It takes place in my neighborhood, Jamaica Plain, and the next school budget has 300 to 400 positions cut for the schools. The mayor is talking about closing and merging small schools. So these are real issues that our communities are facing. Malik, who's in the book, like he really is a kid who had to move out of Boston because his family couldn't afford housing. Miss Najma, who's the teacher, is a dear friend of mine who did work with students across the country to fight school closures. So those are real issues that I've been a part of in different ways. In book 3, Nana comes to visit, and it's based on some real experiences of Sophie helping her Nana and learning about dementia through her Nana. So it has been a real pleasure to continue to collaborate with Sophie and to pull elements from my life and hers and from our neighborhood. And fun fact, Sophie just graduated, as I said, and she just moved in. So now we're really sharing the neighborhood.
Love it. I love it. I love the personal connections there. And to your point, I mean, I'm in an area where also we are going to lose a few of our community schools over the next 3 years. And now, those families are now going to, instead of walking to school, it's busing to school that are a couple miles away. And it's heartbreaking to see that change, as well as the role that those schools play in those communities for those families to see that now go away. So that really, I just really appreciated that element in your story, Lori, and I really connected with that, and no readers will as well. Sue, the fantastical world that you created for the Stone of Shiro originated as a story for, I believe, your children. What was the process like developing these stories now into a full-fledged graphic novel for middle grade?
Yeah, well, I'd just like to give you a little bit of background about me. I grew up in Central Africa, the Belgian Congo, now the DRC, where my dad was a captain for Sabina Airlines. As a child, I was a reluctant reader until I discovered French language comics such as Tintin or Tintin, Spirou, and Asterix. This sparked a lifelong passion for storytelling. Years later, and after I became a mother, I created my own fantasy realm of small anthropomorphic beings for my own children. And they loved the stories. And after a crazy what if moment, I decided that I wanted to share my story with young readers worldwide, not realizing that it would take years before my dream was fulfilled. My career has included international advertising and founding my own children's marketing agency, so I've got middle grade in me. When I moved to Australia in 2006, I served as a marketing director in the animation industry. The studio was making an animated 3D movie. So there were storyboards just right across all the walls telling the story. And I was like a kid in a candy store. I really was. It was just, it was heaven. I loved it. And slowly all the pieces of my life started to sort of come together. Excuse me. My interest in comics as a child, and that I'd always wanted to write a children's novel. So why not a graphic novel where I could combine text and visuals? It just seemed sort of like the natural and logical format to use. You can combine cinematic action, You can combine humor, facial expressions, visual storytelling, humor, uh, and emotional pacing, and it's all at the same time, all at once. And graphic novels seem to attract so many different kinds of readers, including reluctant readers and visual learners. But I had to get my head around changing the text into a graphic novel script format, which is hard. Um, Script format, I had to make a script format that an illustrator could basically work from. Then there was a design of the characters and the environments, which took years of research and development, and then finding a really, really special editor and being prepared to edit again and again and again. I knew this was going to be hard, Louie, but I just had no idea just how hard it was going to be. But would I do it all again? I would do it in a heartbeat.
Wonderful. We're glad that you did. The cinematic nature of the story really comes through in the format, Sue. So thank you so much for bringing
Oh,
that to us.
thank you.
And I would be consistent if I would forget Nick, but I won't, because we really want to hear from you. So in Dasia Forever, you tell the story of 12-year-old cancer patient Dasia Riley, sister of Juan Banks, who figures prominently in the Dear Martin series. As you continue to write in the Dear Martin world, what was the inspiration for Dasia's story, and why did you want to bring it to young readers?
So I, like most people in that age range in 2012, was obsessed with John Green's The Fault in Our Stars.
Mm.
Um, I there's just something about the way that book is written. There's the humanity of it, but there's also the detail and there was something about getting to see this inside view of a pair of people who are dealing with a terminal illness. And it reminded me of being 19. So when I was 19, my best friend's little brother, Ajmal, had a very specific form of lung cancer. So in the book, there's a girl in the book named Jameson. She goes by Jimmy. The kind of cancer that she has is the kind of cancer that Ajmal had. And it was my first time, number one, encountering a Black kid with cancer. And then secondly, it was my first time encountering a Black kid with cancer who was a kid with cancer who was impoverished, right? And so after reading The Fault in Our Stars, I just got it in my head that one day I wanted to tell the story of a Black kid dealing with cancer because it's just not something we get to see very frequently. So I wrote Deja as a tribute to Ajmal. And then there's also a young lady named Carly Earls. I think she just turned 16 or 17, but she just rang her bell recently. And she was my primary, yeah. So she was my primary beta reader, if you will, my primary authenticity reader on this book. So to have her read it and love it and then like ring her bell, it's just been an incredible experience. And I'm really grateful that the book is going to be out in the world, drawing attention to something that is a persistent issue. Like there are children who are in need of care and medicine and research.
Right. Absolutely. And you're bringing it to kids who I think are capable of reading it, understanding, and empathizing, sympathizing, really building knowledge and courage and all those kind of things. So just thank you for bringing that story to kids. We're going to shift gears a little bit to process. And I'm going to talk to a couple of you at a time because we have kind of some similar elements that are kind of going on here. So first, I have a question for Lori and Sue, and it's about working with an illustrator, which both of you have done. What was the process like for you working with an illustrator, and how collaborative were you able to be when you were developing this story with your illustrator? Let's start with you, Lori, and then we'll go to Sue.
It was a really interesting process. First of all, I should admit that Sophie and I imagined that we were going to be the illustrators, because we drew the photos in the newspaper, right? So we fancied ourselves illustrators, and the editor was like, that's cute. Although I am excited to say that a couple of Sophie's early drawings made it into book one. Um, Il Na is a much better illustrator than we are. I love the way that he brought so much joy, especially to the dog characters. They're so fun. Um, but it's a very mitigated process, right? Like Il Na and I, we've never talked, we've never been on Zoom, we don't even email. Like there's the editor, there's the art director. Um, and so I had to learn from that. Also, I think complicated by the fact that my characters are real humans and dogs, right? So I was able to send reference photos of the humans and dogs and the neighborhood. And those photos are also in the back of the books and online at thebarkingpuppy.com because I do think kids like to see like the actual dogs. Um, but sometimes, they're a little too close to me. So I had to learn like which hill to die on. And like it matters to me what Sophie looks like as a young biracial girl, but I can let go of what I looked like, even though I thought I was going to lose my mind when he gave me a pocketbook, and my editor was like, calm your body down. I'm like, just that one thing. No pocketbook, no pocketbook. I'm a tomboy. um, but it was an interesting process, and I feel really grateful to have an illustrator and to understand. I think, Sue, you're more of an illustrator than I am, but like to just see like how that connects with some readers and also like how that can bring things to life that I don't even picture.
Sue?
Yeah, sorry, Louie.
No, you're
Um,
good.
well, finding the right illustrator for me, because I'm not an illustrator, I do the scripts, and it was a crucial part of the process to bring this world to life. After several months of searching, a fate stepped in, and I discovered an illustrator called Stefano Spaziani, the most delightful man, through his ArtStation profile. His work just felt right for me. It was it was not only about his technical brilliance, but also his warmth, his emotion, his storytelling depth. And it was just incredible, and he just felt right for me. So I reached out to him, and when he agreed to come on board, I was absolutely thrilled. It was a wonderful moment in my life. Working alongside Stefano has truly been a once in a lifetime creative experience. He's not only an exceptional artist, but a true collaborator. He's such a gentle person. He's such a gentle guide for me because I had to learn this process. He was just also such a source of encouragement for me. His visual voice has shaped the heart and soul of the Stone of Shiro, giving the world and its characters definitely a richness that I could never have achieved alone. Never. I just couldn't have done it by myself. Ultimately, this project is a result, I think, of personal passion, professional experience, and a deeply collaborative creative partnership. I think together, Stefano and I have built a story, I think, with a clear understanding of our audience, also a strong visual identity and a strong long-term vision for narrative and world building. It's the kind of story that I think we both would have loved as children, and not one I now hope to share with generations of readers.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And just quick follow-up. You reached out to him. You were able to you made the connection.
Absolutely.
Now
I
that
went on
is,
to ArtStation, and it was just, it took months, Louis. It took
yeah.
months and months to find the right illustrator. I had a couple of goes where you ask the illustrator to send you an example of his work. And everything up until Stefano just didn't work for me. And when I said to him, please, will you give me, a sample of your work using a panel from the script, and he presented me with this. I was in heaven. I just said this. I really was. He was right for me.
Really amazing you were able to really be so a part of that decision making, which is I know is not always the case.
It's
So it's really
It's
wonderful.
wonderful. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's wonderful because he's such an encouraging person, Louis. He's such
yeah,
a, and he's the visual partner.
right.
I've written it, but he's the visual partner, and he's the one that will say, well, perhaps we should do it this way. And most of the time I will agree with him, but then sometimes I'll just say, no, it should be this way. And but we compromise, and I think that's such an important part of collaboration with an illustrator.
Love that. Greg, in your book, you deal with time travel, and as I can imagine, I think time travel requires really a heightened attention to detail to make sure everything kind of matches up. But do you find that time travel is difficult to work with? Do you have a particular process you like to use to make sure that kind of all those elements line up?
Like time travel, I'm
Sorry, this is for Greg.
oh, sorry.
Yeah, no,
Sorry, I
you're
beg your
good.
pardon. Sorry, Greg.
That's okay. This is the first time I'd ever written anything to do with time travel. So it was a new process. I'm not a big plotter on the front end. I usually jump in, get started with a character and a setting and a situation. I write a few chapters, and then I might kind of outline out, where the story's going. So I know where the story is going to end up usually. But then I kind of map it out that way. With this, I felt like with this house, Clifton House, where all this is happening, and this family and these ancestors have been, I needed to know the history of the family and the history of the house before I started writing.
Mhm.
So I found this timeline app, and it helped me. I created a whole timeline from when the house was built in the 1700s and who built it and who the ancestors were, all the way up to the point where Ben arrives in the present day. So that was very helpful. So I was able to go back when he jumps back to when his mom is 12. I had all that information there and how old his mom was and what the date was. And when he jumps to where she's like a teenager, I had all that information already planned out. So I had this history of the house already kind of set before I ever started writing. And I found that incredibly helpful, just to know that going in. Other than that, there was a lot of note taking, a lot of trying to keep up with, does the decor change from the present day to back in 2004? And, it got a little crazy, but thank heavens for the copy editors and proofreaders at Penguin, who saved my butt on this because they found so many little inconsistencies. Well, you said this rug was blue in 2004, but now it's green. And it's like, oh my God. And there was a lamp with a red shade. And it's like, oh, it got to be a lot, but they found everything, but not before the arcs were printed, which just drove me crazy that the arcs are out there, with this incorrect information.
Yeah.
But that's just how it goes, but we finally, after several rounds of proofreading and copy editing, I feel like we got it all straightened out. But there's going to be stuff that I missed and that they missed. There always is, and maybe that'll be fun for the readers if they find some little inconsistency. But yes, time travel was it was quite a bear to get into. I'm not looking forward to writing my next time travel novel anytime soon.
It takes a team, doesn't it, to
It
get
does.
that
It
all
does.
together. My next question is for Joanne and Nick. Both of you work in a mix of styles. Joanne, your narrative style includes lists, repeating phrases, footnotes that I think strengthen the voice and add humor. Nick, you move kind of fluidly between prose and a verse style that really captures, I think, the powerful interaction between the two characters. What do these unique elements bring to your story and characters, and what important role did they play in shaping your narrative? I'm going to start with you, Joanne, and then we'll move to Nick.
Sure. Thanks very much. And I've never written a book with these kinds of elements before, so it's very gratifying to know that they landed the way they were supposed to. And actually, Greg made me realize that the arc doesn't have a lot of the art that's to come in the final version. So stay tuned for lots of doodles and art of
Yep.
dogs in the book and lots of fun elements. But as far as the text and the footnotes and the extra things, I really wanted this book to let the reader get into Asher's head. And the first person POV really helps that happen. But the other elements let me level up that experience. So Asher's thinking as somebody with ADHD, a lot of times he can be all over the place, and his thinking is absolutely not linear. And I wanted to show that. So I added those footnotes, doodles, lists, fonts, different size fonts, and things like that. And those elements can seem jarring, but that is the whole point because that is how Asher thinks. So, for example, if he mentions dinner, he may add a footnote with all of his favorite foods listed, and that's important to him in that moment. So things like that happen throughout. And I also felt it was important to show what happens when he gets overwhelmed. And sometimes, even when things are going really, really well, it's just too much for him. And at one point in the book, he suffers a pretty bad meltdown for reasons that you would think are positive. So I use the increasing sizes of fonts and little asides to really show what he's experiencing and feeling in that moment to just sort of level it up. So I really wanted neurodivergent kids to feel that they're not alone in those nonlinear thoughts and what's going on in their head. And when they face challenges and are misunderstood, I wanted non neurodivergent kids to see what that's like firsthand and get inside what's going on with Asher. And I want all kids to build that empathy towards kids who are not like them, and see how they may go through life seeing and experiencing the world in a different way, that is definitely not less than, it's just different. And ADHD can be a challenge, absolutely, but in many ways, it's also a superpower. And I really wanted to make sure that readers saw that on the page.
Awesome. Nick, to you.
So, Joanne, first of all, you're like amazing. I have tried so many times to do a book with footnotes and I never pull it off. So, impressed already.
Thank you.
For me, your purposes are beautiful. Like you are trying to make sure that you are writing something that shows the experience. For me, when it comes to switching format, it's because my kids don't pay attention for anything for very long. They don't pay attention to anything. So if I don't change what's on the page, I'm gonna lose them, right? So with Deja Forever, this is my first time actually publishing any sort of poetry. I remember writing really bad poetry when I was a teenager, like I'm sure most of us did. So to put myself out there and write the poetry in this book was a stretch that I really feel like I needed. But I do think that my aim when it comes to formatting and how things look on the page, like I said, is to hold the attention of the reader, especially young readers, because they're constantly inundated with things that are changing visually, whether they're scrolling on. Right now, my kids' favorite place to scroll is YouTube. Like YouTube shorts are like they'll watch a video for 15 seconds and then they're on to the next video. And I'm like, I don't know what this is doing to your brain, but let me make sure that in these books that I'm writing, what you're seeing on the page is changing. So we'll see how it goes.
I think the back and forth between the formats work so well, and I think kids appreciate that. Like you said, I think that the change of pace and the change of tone really helps and keeps them in. We have 5 minutes left, and I have one question I really want to ask all of you. I've kind of hinted at it beforehand, and it's this question of, your books really deal with some big topics, a broad range of topics, everything from race and poverty, cancer, grief, neurodivergence, power structures, gentrification, menstruation, the LGBTQ awareness, advocacy. Why do you feel it's important for children's literature to tackle these topics, even if they're a bit weightier or uncomfortable for some? Why is it important we're bringing these to our kids? I'm going to start with Greg, and then I would like to hear from, in this order, Greg, Joanne, Lori, Sue, and we'll finish with Nick. So Greg, you first.
Okay, I'll keep it short because I know we're running low on time. But basically, the reason why I have no issue with tackling these kind of tough topics in middle grade is because these kids are living these situations every
That's
single
right.
day.
That's right.
And so that has been my mantra. If kids are living it, I will write about it.
100%. Thank you. Joanne?
And echoing that, absolutely. Kids see difficult situations around them or have to live through them. And if we can give them the safe spaces of books to explore and think about the worlds around them, we build more empathetic, resilient, kind, and kids that are more able to tackle the world around them.
Lori?
Yeah, when Sophie was young, she grew up as the only brown girl in her class in Vermont. And she didn't have language for that until she got to high school and she started telling stories. And I realized that I had waited for her to talk to me, but I hadn't opened that door or helped her with that language. And so I feel like books are really important for young people and for the adults in their lives to give us some of that language to create the invitation for us to talk about ADHD, racism, gentrification, cancer, like all these things. And also to have faith in young people. Like as grown-ups, we haven't solved these things. So like young people have some amazing ideas, right? So like really having these books so they can start talking with each other too and coming up with their own creative solutions.
100%. Sue, how about you?
Um, I think the Stone of Shiro presents a really diverse and inclusive fantasy world. It's made up of characters of different ages, species, abilities, and personalities. Using the anthropomorphic setting, I think the story shows differences can be a strength, and it really encourages respect, cooperation, and empathy that is accessible and meaningful, I think, to middle grade readers.
And Nick?
Yeah, just expanding a little on what everyone's already said. Like, not only are some of these kids living this, but the ones who aren't living it are seeing it. They're exposed to it. Kids are constantly online. Even the things that you encounter on Roblox, right? Like, there are so many things that they're seeing and that they're engaging with that we're frankly unaware of. So, making sure they have the language to talk about these difficult things that they're going to encounter anyway, I think is super important. And also, they're smart and they can handle it.
Thank you all for creating books that our smart readers can see themselves in, can see others in, can experience the world in. And I think those are the kinds of books we really need to get in the hands of all of our readers. I asked for 50 more minutes and I didn't get it. So we have to end this panel here. Really, thank you so much for your time, panelists, for your remarkable new books. I can't wait to get these in the hands of our readers and our kids. And I love really the stories that you're bringing, and thanks for bringing those important stories to kids. Thank you, Greg Howard, Joanne Levy, Lori Lobenstine, Sue Ruffle, and Nick Stone. You guys were awesome. It was so much fun to talk with you. And thank you for all of those of you that are joining us, for joining us. Up next, your sessions are either Extraordinary Kids or Sports Fans. We've got you. Enjoy the rest of your time. Thanks so much, guys.
And thank you, Louie.
Bye.
You're welcome. This was fun.
Thanks.
It was.
Thank you.
Bye.